Okay, just to clarify, no, we're not blaming entirely the politicians because you guys have a very strong and important role in education. But the context of my question was, is it really getting in the way of proper policy making and policy implementation? Perhaps you could hear si Attorney Erap.
On the question on whether education is highly politicized, I think our governance structure is makes education by nature political. Number one, our secretaries and heads of agencies are appointed by the executive, and education agencies are political agencies. So therefore, they need to be political. But if you're referring to the bad politics, meaning sacrificing the goals of education for what is popular and what gets them in higher positions in government, that should not happen. But the way it is really structured, that's the way it is. We can never avoid the politics, but it's not always in the bad sense, right? So that's why we need to be participative in policy making. We don't leave it to our policymakers and implementors. Thank you.
Let's hear from members of Congress who are actually champions of education reform. Congressman Mark, go first.
Nung ako po'y nag-aral ng political science, ang natutunan ko sa salitang politics, it's actually the art and science of governance. Yun ang aking natutunan. And sometimes dito sa ating bansa, in our country, we look at politics as something negative. Kailangan magamit natin ang politika in order to improve the quality of our education. Tama yung binanggit ni Dr. Cynthia na kung ang mga nag-a-apply ay hindi qualified at nagpapa-endorse sa mga politiko at kukunin yan, yun ang hindi magandang politika. Pero in general, dapat po magamit natin ang magandang aspeto of politics in the way we run our government, our institutions. Kung minsan kasi there are situations where yung mga schools mismo ang pumupunta sa mga politiko at sila ang nagsasuggest kung sinong kukunin at pag nagpapa-endorse. But at the end of the day, because I was a human resource manager before, you will not have a situation where you will not get endorsement from politicians. But if you follow the same procedure of hiring people based on qualification, whether they're endorsed or not by a politician, I think you will be able to do a good job if that is your objective. Talagang makakuha ng tamang leader o mga empleyado ng iyong opisina. Having said that, kami pong dalawa ni Congressman Benitez, marami po kaming mga ginagawa sa Kongreso na sabi sa amin, parang hindi kayo politiko. Kasi po, tingnan nyo po yung Advisory Council ng Education Commission, kung sino-sino po yan. Karamihan po dyan, or more than 95%, hindi po politiko yung mga yan, yung mga leaders of the different educational institutions in the country. Siguro po, ganun dapat ang magiging perspective natin in this, And definitely, tayo, nandito lahat, magtulong-tulong po tayo kung nakikita niyong ginagamit ang politika bilang batayan sa pagkilos nila, dapat tayong magsabi sa kanila na hindi dapat yan. And kasama po ninyo kami rito. Thank you.
Okay. Congressman Benitez.
Good morning din sa inyo lahat. I understand majority of you are from the private sector rather than the public sector. Is education too politicized? I think I will echo the sentiment of most of the people here in front. Number one, I think we need to specify what we mean by politicized. So if it's a specific issue like scholarship eligibility or hiring eligibility within, say, DepEd and so on, I think we need to remember that education is based on two things from our end where we sit. The first is the aspirations of both individuals and communities, which by nature will seek political avenues. The second is actually budget, which comes again from government, and by nature will always be political. The third, perhaps, that I should mention is that education as a sector has its own inherent dynamics, no, that is in fact separate from political. And to the extent that we have a system that allows us to reform, reforms themselves derive from political initiative. So the mere fact that we have an EDCOM 2 is also because of politics, right? So it is both a danger, and I think it's clear in your question and in the responses what types of danger over politicization will provide, but also the space ultimately of possibilities. No? EDCOM 2 emerges out of a political response that says perhaps there is something that we need to do to tweak, no, our education system in order to improve it. But again, that is also a political decision, right? So it's a two-edged sword, and the key in the end, I think, is trying to balance those two aspects of our own context.